They let him talk.
He's like, what, 80-something, 90?
Out of nowhere, they let yeah. They're letting him talk. And I'm like, who's letting him talk?
I'm here with Chris Newman, who is the attorney for the wife and mother of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And we just tried to go visit him in prison just to check on his conditions. Is he doing okay? Because nobody has any communication with him since he was illegally abducted from Maryland and sent to CCOT prison in El Salvador, which is a U.S. District Court judge said was a violation of all his due process rights. Today's purpose was just to see what his health condition is. And these soldiers were ordered to prevent us from going any farther from this spot. I understand we're about 3 kilometers now from CCOT. And as you can see, they're letting other cars go by, but they stopped us because they're under orders not to allow us to proceed to check on the well-being of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
The case of Abrego Garcia, this guy, wait until you hear what we've just found out about this guy. He's the left poster boy, favorite poster boy child for just a Maryland dad who President Trump picked on. He just picked him up for no good reason and shipped him off to that El Salvadoran prison. Well, one of the things they're trying to do, and this audience knows, we've talked to him many times, but he's not just a Maryland dad. He's not a U.S. citizen. He's from El Salvador. He was picked up and he was brought here illegally by his parents when he was 16. In 2019, he was arrested for suspected gang activity. And in the context of investigating this guy, they figured out that he was an illegal and he was ordered removed. A district court judge, an immigration trial judge, and then an appellate court above her both agreed he needed to be removed. He pled for mercy, saying, please, you can't send me back to El Salvador because there's gang activity. And they said, okay, you don't have to go back to El Salvador. And he's been kind of just like hovering here ever since on our benevolence and saying, you know, you're kick-outable, but we won't send you back there. Anyway, that's where things stand.
Yes, this guy was true like never before. When you take a look at what this president sent out, Kilmar miraculously risen from the dead calm and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. Now that he has been confirmed healthy, he get the honor of staying in El Salvador custody. Simple as that. A lot of people were amazed with this because Democrat motive was that, oh, he has been tortured, oh, he's not in good health, we want to see how he's feeling. You know, this is what I saw. When he came out with pictures like this is just a photo of they want to put that on social media. They talked about everyone mocked at him. I want to know, have you ever seen a Democrat fighting for the American citizen until traveling to another country like this? I have never seen that. Someone said Democrats should use this as their talking point throughout. I don't know how beneficial that can be. Forgetting about the reason they deported this guy, he's an illegal immigrant, and the Trump administration is currently doing that.
I've seen some people look at this and say they're worried that the stance of this administration when it comes to this is that if someone is deported by accident, that they have no responsibility for them once they are in the custody of a foreign government. What would you say to that?
Well, they're in the custody of El Salvador. He's an El Salvadoran national. He was born in El Salvador. El Salvador has him in custody, and El Salvador decide what happened to him. I mean, again, the El Salvadoran president made it clear he's not going to release him. So again, I'm going to go back. The DOJ, they can fight this out in the courts. As I'm not a part of that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a prosecutor. So we'll let the courts, decide what the next steps will be.
Even though it was a U.S. immigration judge who said the one place he can't go is El Salvador. I mean, he could have been deported literally anywhere else.
Again, we can keep going back and back, but again, that was years ago. Country conditions were different. That gang no longer exists in El Salvador. He had been designated a terrorist at that time. 2 different federal judges said he's an MS-13 member. A police department said he's an MS-13 member. ICE data shows he's an MS-13 member. El Salvador says he's an MS-13 member. As you know, MS-13 has been designated terrorist. The case says the facts of the case have changed since since that first decision. So again, I'll leave it up to the DOJ to argue that case in court, but that is where I stand, and that's my belief.
Yes, when you take a look at this, the Trump DOJ has released evidence demonstrating that Kilmar is a member of the MS-13. Of course, that is still beside the point. Abrego came here illegally. He broke the law every additional day. He stayed here. He has no right to live in America. And guess what? He's a citizen of El Salvador. So they have every right in the world to refuse the extradite one of their own citizens, especially if it will help him escape justice for being the member of this criminal gang. Okay, now look at the whole situation. It is complicated. What the president of El Salvador sent out, like, you have seen him, he's in good heart, everything is cool. He will stay here throughout his custody. That is end result. So when you look at this whole thing, extremely concerning. I don't know how this will end because a judge is now saying, oh, I will charge or I will take the Trump administration officials to court.
Democrats' phones are ringing off the hook. They're all asking each other, have you seen him? Are you going? If you are, when? Democrats all want to meet Kilmar Garcia, a verified member of MS-13 who broke into our country and then beat up his wife. And the beating's on video, she claims. One Democrat tells Axios, we got 24/7 calls on it this week, more than any other topic. That means Democrats aren't calling senators about tariffs, Signalgate, or egg prices. All they want to do is empty a mega prison into Maryland. Senator Van Hollen's getting a little lonely in El Salvador. He's the only one who's ever tried to break into a prison.
Today's purpose was just to see what his health condition is. And these soldiers were ordered to prevent us from going any farther from this spot. I understand we're about 3 kilometers now.
3,000 miles to check on his health. Who cares? Has Van Hollen ever cared this much about an American? Has he ever gone this far for anyone? Ladies, get a guy who cares about you the way Van Hollen cares about MS-13. Van Hollen wouldn't even stand up for black kids. He walked out of Trump's State of the Union. Van Hollen voted against the Laken-Riley Act. And now the esteemed senator from Maryland is demanding a caravan of Democrats descend into El Salvador and break an illegal out of prison like he's Nelson Mandela.
I may be the first member of Congress here, the first senator, but I can assure you more will be coming. And you cannot continue to keep this man locked up in this worst prison in El Salvador and one of the worst in the hemisphere.
Spartacus is booking a first-class flight, and Tampon says if you don't fight for MS-13 rights, you're next.
Yes, you can see who Democrat can defend. They're standing up because of the hatred they have toward Trump. According to them, doing all this is just a strategy, to make people understand that Democrats are fighting for them. That is not the case. A lot of people understand these tactics. Yeah, this has been a thing with Democrats. When I look through social media to see how people are responding to this, everyone is furious. CNN did a whole segment the other day. They realized from that poll that majority of Americans believe that all illegal immigrants should be deported. Yeah, that is what that video says. So you can understand that people are not really concerned with this. They are in support with what Trump is doing. This guy, forget about the gang issue. He's an illegal immigrant, implying that normally he should be deported back into his country. His case is just a clear one that you can't really even defend to a certain point. Yeah. Democrat came with that strategy to paint it like he has been tortured. Oh, they've done this to him. He has been, the way they were singing it, this president disproved them by just allowing that guy to come out and interact with. They realize the guy is fresh. He's cool. Nothing has happened to him. So what exactly are these people actually talking about? This is country. They should allow him Like I said, I'm waiting to see the end result of what is going on.
So the plan, as I understand it, and I'm sure we'll get more details, is if you're an undocumented immigrant, Trump wants you to go home, but if you're good at home, he will get you back into the country. They will fly you out of the country. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's been living in Maryland for 14 years, he's got a wife. He was abducted by ICE and mistakenly deported to El Salvador. They refuse to bring him back. They won't even let him come back.
I think we're all following the news of the day. We are seeing right before our eyes what it looks like when the head of the government of the country we live in doesn't think he has to obey the courts or the law. It's an incredibly important and incredibly dangerous moment for the country.
As you know, we've been following the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, undocumented migrant from El Salvador, married an American woman, has a kid, living the American dream. Until the Trump administration sent him to an El Salvadorian mega prison by, and I'm quoting,
that mode, which is going to render them possibly an irrelevant party if they don't change. Yes, I'm a free speech guy.
Randy Fine.
Everybody, he had...
Do the monologue.